The film begins in a restaurant in Moscow. An army serviceman, Oleg, is on a date with his girlfriend Alina, engaging in a flirtatious conversation. The couple, alongside the rest of the world, is living a normal day until suddenly, the lights everywhere start to flicker. An airplane stops working mid-air, falling to its doom, followed by a worldwide blackout. The entire world, except for the area around Moscow, parts of Belarus, Ukraine, and Finland, is plunged into darkness. People in the white areas watch the news in astonishment as the reporter describes the situation of the rest of the world. Communication with the dark countries is halted, leaving no immediate way to figure out what the people of those areas are going through. People assume they are under a terrorist attack, but no one knows for sure what caused the blackout. Eventually, the dark area is named the quarantine zone, and the areas with light are named the circle of life. The government sends several drones into the quarantine zone, but they mysteriously disappear, leaving them no options but to send an army to investigate. As soon as they land, the soldiers are met with a terrifying truth. Everyone on the dark side died on the spot as soon as the blackout occurred. Not just humans, but animals like fish, cats, and even butterflies are dead. Not the butterflies. One team is inspecting an apartment when someone attacks a soldier. The person runs away after jumping off a tall building. This means that not all living things are dead, but the sudden attack remains unexplained. A month passes in similar fashion, but the government sees no progress in their research. They are still oblivious to what caused the blackout and the deaths. All former soldiers are drafted to the research teams, including the second protagonist, Yuri. He took a break from work to look after his mother with dementia. Because of the draft, he reluctantly has to leave her with the next-door neighbors, hoping she will be fine until he returns. The following day, a new batch of soldiers arrive at their post. Lieutenant Marina reveals that the forensic reports of the quarantine zone dead bodies have just been published. It says the cause of the death is neurotoxin poisoning, produced by the body itself. This means the people were killed because something triggered their bodies to produce the toxin abnormally. Oleg and his girlfriend Alina are at their post, getting ready to deploy to a quarantine zone for research. However, their plan is interrupted by the sudden ringing of alarms. The radar shows that something massive is coming their way from the forest. The soldiers have no view of the enemy, so they settle on firing in random directions. The scene cuts to the next morning, and we finally get to see the chaos in broad daylight. The attackers were wild bears who killed and devoured many of the soldiers and wreaked havoc on the base. The incident is devastating, but also strange, because the bears seemed to have attacked strategically. In another part of the city, a man named Sasha is hospitalized. Since the blackout occurred, something strange has been happening to Sasha, as he sees vivid dreams and hears voices in his head. The morning after the attack, Sasha feels uneasy, almost as if he can feel the soldiers' fear when they fought the bears. He is then approached by a man named Zhenya, who claims to be his ally. He reveals that many people are still alive in the quarantine zones, but are being controlled by someone. Sasha is also connected to their minds because he was at the border of the circle of life when the blackout occurred. This explains his dreams, and also the bear attack, which was an elaborate plan devised by the person who is controlling everything. Zhenya doesn't disclose how he knows all of this, which causes Sasha to panic. He calls the guards, but finds out he has been talking to Zhenya in his mind, and he is not physically present in the room. Ghosts, blackouts, and bears. Oh my. Sorry, that was a stupid joke. Meanwhile, in the army base, multiple teams of soldiers set off for different parts of the quarantine zones for their respective missions. A few hours later, the first team reaches a quarantine city where the plane had crashed. To their surprise, they are welcomed by the surviving humans, who are now a puppet to someone else. They are waiting with tanks, arms, and ammunition, ready to fight the soldiers. Soldier Yuri and the second team are with a press reporter named Olya. They reach a town safely, where they have to establish an observation camp for the next few days. Meanwhile, Oleg is with Group 3, entering a city called Kirov. A few days pass, and the soldiers continue keeping watch in their respective areas. Then, one day, a man named Ide approaches Sasha and reveals himself to be a humanoid alien. He wants to use Sasha's psychic abilities to find the perpetrator of the blackout, who is none other than Ide's brother, Ra. Seems like Sasha is hallucinating shit again. The lieutenant catches Ide and arrests them after he promises to explain everything he knows about the blackout. A while later, everyone is in the interrogation room, waiting for Ide to speak. He starts by revealing that he and his people are natives of a planet in a different galaxy. They never age after a certain point and cannot die of natural causes until someone kills them. When their planet's sun died, they had to relocate to a better one with a younger son. They chose the Earth and sent Ide and his brother Ra to the planet to make it ready by the time everyone else arrives on a bigger ship. 200,000 years ago, when Ide and Ra came to the Earth, humans used to possess psionic powers and could use telepathy and psychosis. This is how they created pyramids and other unexplained infrastructures of the world. Such powers could be a problem for Ide's kind when they came to Earth, so Ra and Ide used a bioweapon to make the power of psionic disappear from humans. It was the first step taken to make the Earth suitable for aliens, but now, Ra wants to wipe out the entire human race, so his people would have the planet to themselves. He caused the blackout and the deaths of several to put his plan into action. His next step is to use the surviving humans to fight the people inside the Circle of Heaven, since he can control them easily. The lieutenant finds it hard to believe, but she has no room to distrust them after what they have faced in the past month. The most concerning part is that the aliens are arriving on Earth in 2 days, which means they only have 48 hours to defeat Ra. While the officials discuss their next step, Oleg and his group catch a kid trying to collect food from a store. Initially, they feel sympathetic and help him, but then Ra takes control of the boy and makes him attack the soldiers. They have to reluctantly shoot him dead and report the situation to the lieutenant. However, this is only the start of the fight. When it gets dark, thousands of Ra's puppets from the quarantine zone attack all 3 army posts, giving rise to a battle for colonization. Yuri and his team are heavily outnumbered, so they send a flare signal to the base, asking for reinforcements. The commander gets the soldiers ready, when suddenly, the sky lights up because of flare signals coming from all directions. The entirety of surviving humans have been outnumbered, making their loss seem imminent. Now their only hope is Ide, and fortunately he is willing to help. He tells the lieutenant that they have to locate Ra with Sasha's help. Only when his brother is stopped, Ide can control the people attacking the soldiers. The lieutenant brings Ide and his human associate Zhenya to the army base, where they have to find Sasha and help him locate Ra. In the meantime, Yuri's team is ambushed to the ground, and his fellow soldiers are killed one after another. At last, only 2 survivors remain, him and Olya. They have to find another group if they wish to stay alive. Hence, they get on a vehicle and make their way to Oleg's team. Elsewhere, Ide is helping Sasha focus, so they can figure out where Ra is located. After trying for a while, Sasha finally sees him on top of a skyscraper in Kirov, controlling the human puppets. Ide helps Sasha calm down and suggests they quickly leave for Kirov. It is also the place where Oleg is stationed and where Olya and Yuri are headed. Ide and the team are preparing to leave when they are informed that the puppets have attacked the Circle of Life as well. Not wasting more time, Ide, the lieutenant, and her soldiers leave for Kirov. Sasha is asked to stay at the base because his life must not be put at risk. On their way to Kirov, Ide reveals that he doesn't care about Sasha's life. He asked the guy to stay back because Ra could track his location, which would mean trouble for all of them. As he had predicted, Ra finds Sasha's location, resulting in several missiles being launched at the base. The soldiers try their best to fight back, but eventually, the entire base is destroyed, and everyone inside is killed. The lieutenant loses her mind and blames Ide for killing her people. Ide, on the other hand, claims that this was the only way they could run away from Ra without him becoming suspicious. The soldier's death was inevitable and, frankly, necessary to save humanity. The following morning, Yuri and Olya find Oleg's team, and a while later, the lieutenant and her group also join. The soldiers are told everything about Ide and the attack on the Circle of Life. This means that they are the only humans alive on Earth, and they have to stop Ra to prevent humanity's extinction. They do not waste more time before making their way to the skyscraper where the villain is. But on the way, their tanks are attacked by a massive crowd of human puppets. One man jumps on a vehicle with an explosive and initiates the battle. The soldiers remain inside the tank and fire at the crowd in front of them. They do not stop, so the enemy won't get a chance to climb the tanks and eventually reach the skyscraper. The commander and his soldiers decide to remain at the bottom of the building to deflect the enemy while the others climb upstairs. In a final showdown, Yuri and Ide come face to face with Ra. Yuri runs to attack him, but Ra is much stronger. He instead faces a better opponent, his brother Ide. They fight an intense battle, both as good as each other. Meanwhile, the commander is struggling to hold off the puppets. When most of his soldiers have died, they are attacked by a vehicle filled with explosives. It causes an explosion, resulting in the deaths of all soldiers. The puppets are now free to enter the building to their master's aid. Ra figures out what is going on downstairs, but it distracts him, giving Ide a chance to land a fatal attack. He rips out a device from Ra's chest and thrusts a grenade into it, killing his brother at last. After his death, Ide gains full control over the puppets and kills them at once. Now, the only humans alive are Yuri, Oleg, the lieutenant, Olya, Alina, and Zhenya. They do not feel the joy of victory, as billions of dead bodies lie all around. Ide finally reveals that humans are irrational beings, with no love and compassion. Even when they show mercy, they will choose a path of violence one day or the other. This is why Ra wanted to end them as a species, and ensure his people's safety. They've clearly demonstrated that they're not violent at all. However, Ide has a different motive. He wants to be God and craves absolute power. He could have warned people long ago about the blackout, but he only came into action after it happened. This is because he wanted humans to die, so they know his importance and see him as their messiah. An enraged lieutenant holds him at gunpoint, accusing him of killing billions just for his fantasy. Before she shoots, Zhenya runs at Ide with a knife. Ide positions himself away from both of them, just in time for Zhenya to stab the lieutenant. She is killed in the incident. Ide turns himself into Oleg's father to confuse him, but Zhenya sees through his plan this time. He throws him from the roof, dying with him in the fall. Now, the only people alive are an injured Yuri, Oleg, Olya, and Alina. Everything falls silent as they watch an alien spaceship land on Earth. The door to the ship opens, and they patiently wait for the invaders, but to their surprise, no one comes out. They decide to go inside themselves and find thousands of aliens sleeping in cryocapsules. They're about to wake up in a few minutes, so the group starts destroying their oxygen supply to kill them at last. We're dead anyway, they say. May as well commit genocide. However, when they get to the children's section, they cannot bring themselves to kill the innocent kids. In the last scene, hundreds of alien children come out of the capsule, ready to explore their new home, without parents or guidance of any kind. Real nice.